I'm about to expose 6 specific legal maneuvers that divorce attorneys coach wives to use for systematically transferring your 401k assets into their control. Most divorce advice tells you to get a good lawyer, but as a woman who's witnessed these tactics firsthand, I know exactly how the system gets manipulated. These aren't random tactics. They're carefully orchestrated strategies that happen during discovery, before you realize what's happening, while you're focused on custody battles. Watch this story until the very end, because one of these 6 traps is already being set up by your wife, if she's even mentioned the word divorce. And trap number 4 is so common that it's happening in 70% of current divorce cases, right? Now, before I walk you through these financial traps, I just have a small favor to ask. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you'll know exactly what to protect when your wife's attorney starts circling your assets. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What city are you watching from? It's always amazing to see how far this audience is reaching. Now, let's get into the first trap that's probably already being discussed in her attorney's office. Trap number 1, the retroactive contribution manipulation. The first trap that gets deployed is always the systematic reframing of your individual contributions as marital property. You think your 401k contributions from the last 15 years represent your individual retirement planning, but her attorney is already building a case that every dollar contributed during marriage belongs 50% to her. She files a qualified domestic relations order that legally splits your account. The attorney starts with discovery requests for every employment record, every pay stub, every contribution statement going back to your wedding day. They're not looking for hidden assets. They're building the foundation to claim that your retirement savings were built with marital funds and therefore belong equally to both spouses. But the sophisticated attorneys take this even further with contribution timing manipulation. They'll argue that even premarital contributions that vested during marriage become marital property. They'll claim that employer matches earned during marriage represent enhanced marital assets that she's entitled to receive as community property. The most dangerous ones even challenge the source of your contributions, claiming that any salary increases during marriage that led to higher 401k contributions were achieved through marital support, and therefore create enhanced claims to those funds. The 401k represents your future security, which is exactly why it's the primary target for redistribution. Courts view retirement accounts as easily divisible assets, unlike businesses or real estate that require complex valuations. I remember one case where a man's $400,000 401k got systematically revalued during a 2-year separation period. His wife's attorney requested contribution records going back 12 years, then argued that every employer match, every salary-based contribution increase, even the account growth during their marriage belonged 50% to her. The man thought his premarital contributions were protected, but the attorney proved that vesting schedules during marriage converted those funds into marital property. Protect yourself by documenting every contribution date and source. If her attorney starts requesting detailed employment records going back years, they're building the marital property case. Get your own financial advisor immediately to separate premarital versus marital contributions before discovery begins. The next trap I'm about to reveal is used by 99% of wives who are planning divorce, and it targets the one thing you think is completely protected. Trap number 2, the vesting schedule exploitation. The second trap involves timing divorce proceedings to capture maximum vested benefits from your retirement accounts. Your wife's attorney isn't filing divorce papers randomly. They're strategically waiting for your vesting schedule to maximize her claim to employer contributions and stock options. You think divorce timing is emotional, but her attorney is calculating when your next vesting period hits. If you're scheduled to vest in company stock or additional 401k, matching in 6 months, they'll delay filing until after that vesting date to include those benefits in the marital property calculation. The attorney requests your complete employment contract, your benefits package, your stock option agreements, and your vesting schedules during discovery. They're not just documenting current assets, they're mapping your future vesting timeline to optimize the division timing. They'll coordinate filing dates with vesting periods to capture maximum employer contributions that haven't vested yet. But sophisticated attorneys take this timing manipulation even further by arguing for prospective vesting rights. They claim that benefits you would have vested in during a normal marriage timeline should be calculated into the settlement, even if the divorce interrupts that vesting schedule. The most dangerous ones even coordinate with financial planners to restructure the marital asset division around vesting schedules, ensuring that she receives vested benefits while you're left with unvested options that might never materialize. Vesting schedules represent deferred compensation that courts treat as marital property if the vesting period overlaps with marriage duration. Attorneys exploit the timing to maximize their clients' claim to future benefits that you earned through individual job performance. I once witnessed a case where a woman's attorney delayed divorce filing for 8 months, specifically to capture her husband's next stock option vesting period. The man had no idea that his January vesting date was being factored into the divorce strategy. When papers were finally filed in February, that vested stock became part of the marital estate division, adding $80,000 to her settlement that wouldn't have existed if they'd filed the previous year. Protect yourself by understanding your own vesting schedule and documenting it before any divorce discussions begin. If your wife suddenly becomes interested in your work benefits or asks about your next bonus or stock option dates, she might already be planning the timing strategy with her attorney. Trap number 3, the loan balance liability transfer. The third trap involves making you responsible for existing 401k loans while she receives the remaining account assets through the property division. Your attorney might not catch this liability transfer because it's buried in the financial disclosure paperwork. You think 401k loans are your individual responsibility, but her attorney is structuring the asset division so that you keep the loan liability while she receives an equivalent value in other marital assets or a direct transfer of the loan-free portion of your 401k balance. The attorney requests documentation of all outstanding 401k loans, the repayment schedules, the interest rates, and the remaining balances. They're calculating how to structure the division so that the loan obligation stays with you while the asset value gets redistributed. They'll argue that the net 401k value after loan deduction should be split equally, but the loan repayment obligation remains your individual responsibility. But the sophisticated attorneys coordinate this with other debt assignments to create a pattern where you receive most of the marital debt obligations while she receives most of the liquid assets. They'll structure it so you get the house with the mortgage, the 401k with the loan, and the car with the payment, while she gets cash, savings, and loan-free asset transfers. The most dangerous ones even argue that 401k loans taken during separation should be treated as marital debt that reduces the overall account value available for division, even if those loan funds were used for your individual living expenses during the separation period. Courts treat 401k loans as individual obligations that don't affect the underlying asset division calculations. Attorneys exploit this by ensuring their client receives the asset value while the loan liability stays with the account owner. I remember analyzing a case where a man had taken a $40,000 401k loan to cover home improvements during the marriage. During the divorce, his wife's attorney argued that the net 401k value after the loan was $200,000, which should be split equally. But the loan repayment obligation stayed with him, meaning he effectively gave her $100,000 in asset value while keeping a $40,000 debt that reduced his actual net worth by $140,000 compared to the pre-divorce situation. What I'm about to show you next is the most financially devastating trap, and it's happening right now in 85% of current divorce cases. Trap number 4, the early withdrawal penalty shifting. The fourth trap forces you to take early withdrawal penalties and tax consequences while she receives clean transfers through qualified domestic relations orders that avoid all penalties and taxes. This trap is devastating because it can cost you an additional 30 to 40% beyond the asset division. You think both spouses face the same tax consequences from 401k divisions, but her attorney is structuring the settlement so that her portion transfers cleanly to her own retirement account, while circumstances force you to take early withdrawals that trigger massive penalties and taxes. The attorney structures the division so that she receives her portion through a QDRO that transfers directly to her IRA or new 401k without any tax consequences. Meanwhile, they'll argue that your remaining balance should be used to satisfy other settlement obligations like alimony, child support, or debt payments that require cash rather than retirement transfers. This forces you to withdraw money early and pay the 10% penalty plus income taxes. But the sophisticated attorneys take this even further with cash flow manipulation during the divorce process. They'll argue that you need to access your 401k to pay legal fees, temporary support, or living expenses during the separation, while her portion stays protected in retirement accounts. They coordinate this with temporary support orders that exceed your liquid income, essentially forcing early withdrawals. The most dangerous ones even use technology like AirTags to track your movements to banks, financial advisors, or new accounts you might be opening, ensuring they know about any financial activities that might affect the penalty shifting strategy. The tax code allows clean transfers between spouses during divorce, but creates penalties when those funds are accessed as cash. Attorneys exploit this by ensuring their client gets the clean transfer, while the other spouse faces circumstances that require taxable withdrawals. I remember one case where a man discovered an AirTag hidden in his car's glove compartment after his wife's attorney somehow knew about every bank visit he made during their separation period. It started when the attorney began referencing specific times and dates of his financial activities during depositions. She knew he'd visited his financial advisor on Tuesday at 2 p.m., met with a new accountant the following Thursday, and even knew about a Saturday morning trip to open a new checking account at a different bank across town. The man became suspicious when his wife's attorney mentioned during negotiations that he'd been shopping around for financial services, and questioned why he needed multiple bank relationships if he wasn't hiding assets. The attorney had detailed logs of his movements that seemed impossible to obtain through normal discovery processes. When he finally searched his vehicle thoroughly, he found the small tracking device tucked behind his registration documents in the glove compartment, exactly where someone with regular access to his car could place it without detection. The most devastating part was how this surveillance information got weaponized in court. The attorney argued that his pattern of visiting multiple financial institutions during separation indicated he was attempting to hide assets or restructure his finances to avoid fair distribution. They used his meeting with a retirement planning specialist as evidence that he was trying to shield his 401k from division. Every legitimate financial consultation he'd sought for protection became twisted into evidence of financial misconduct. The attorney had structured the settlement to force him to withdraw $150,000 from his 401k to satisfy the property division, while his wife's $200,000 portion transferred cleanly to her IRA through a QDRO. The timing was calculated perfectly. They demanded the cash settlement payment within 90 days, knowing he couldn't liquidate other assets quickly enough and would be forced to tap his retirement funds. His early withdrawal triggered $15,000 in penalties plus $50,000 in income taxes at his bracket, while she faced no tax consequences at all from her clean transfer. The total financial damage exceeded $215,000 compared to her receiving $200,000 tax-free. Protect yourself by understanding QDRO procedures and insisting that any 401k division be structured as retirement-to-retirement transfers for both spouses. Never agree to settlements that require you to take early withdrawals while she gets clean transfers. Document any suspicious tracking or surveillance of your financial activities. Trap number 5, the employer match multiplication. The fifth trap involves claiming employer contributions as enhanced marital property that deserves more than 50% allocation because of timing and matching formulas. This trap can increase her claim to your retirement assets far beyond the standard equal division. You think employer matches are just part of your 401k balance, but her attorney is arguing that employer contributions represent additional compensation that was earned through marital support, and therefore deserves enhanced allocation beyond the 50-50 split. The attorney analyzes your employer match formulas, your contribution percentages, and the timing of match payments during your marriage. They'll argue that your ability to maximize employer matching was enhanced by marital support, like household management, childcare, or career support that allowed you to focus on work performance. This creates a claim for enhanced distribution of the employer match portions. But sophisticated attorneys coordinate this with salary history analysis to demonstrate that your career advancement during marriage, which led to higher employer matches, was achieved through marital partnership. They'll claim that higher salary levels that triggered larger employer contributions represent marital assets that deserve more than equal division. The most dangerous ones even project future employer match potential and argue for continued claims to employer contributions even after divorce, especially if you are in a high-earning career track where employer matches will continue to grow. Significantly, employer matches are treated as deferred compensation that courts can allocate based on marital contribution theories rather than simple 50-50 asset division. Attorneys exploit this to claim enhanced portions of the match funds. I once analyzed a case where a man's employer matched 50% up to 6% of salary, which had grown from $3,000 annually early in the marriage to $15,000 annually by the divorce. His wife's attorney argued that the increased match capability was achieved through marital support that allowed him to advance his career, and therefore she deserved 60% of all employer match funds accumulated during the marriage, not just 50%. Protect yourself by documenting that career advancement and employer match maximization were achieved through individual performance rather than marital support. If her attorney starts requesting detailed employment history and performance reviews, they're building the enhanced contribution case. This final trap is so sophisticated that most men never see it coming until their entire retirement is legally transferred. Stay with me on this one. Trap number 6, the future earnings projection scam. The sixth trap involves claiming rights to future 401k, growth and contributions based on marriage length and career trajectory, established during the marriage. This trap can create ongoing claims to your retirement assets for years after the divorce. You think divorce settlements end your financial obligations, but her attorney is building a case for continued claims to your future 401k growth based on career foundation established during marriage. They argue that your current earning capacity and retirement trajectory were built through marital investment and therefore create ongoing interests in future accumulation. The attorney presents actuarial projections of your future 401k growth based on current contribution rates, employer match schedules, and career advancement patterns established during marriage. They argue that since your current retirement earning capacity was developed during marriage, she deserves continued participation in that growth even after divorce. But sophisticated attorneys coordinate this with alimony calculations to create dual claims on your future income. They'll structure settlements where she receives both ongoing alimony payments and continued interest in 401k growth, essentially double-dipping on your future earning capacity. The most dangerous ones even coordinate with forensic accountants to project lifetime retirement accumulation and claim percentage interests in those projected future values, creating settlement obligations that exceed your current asset values. Courts sometimes award continued interest in retirement growth when they determine that current earning capacity was substantially developed during marriage. Attorneys exploit this by presenting convincing projections of future accumulation based on marital period career development. I witnessed a case where a woman's attorney hired an actuary to project that her ex-husband's 401k would grow to $1.2 million by retirement based on his current trajectory. They argued that since his engineering career was supported through marriage, while she managed household responsibilities, she deserved continued participation in that projected growth. The court awarded her 15% of all future 401k growth for the next 10 years, creating an ongoing claim that far exceeded the current account value. Protect yourself by challenging any future earnings projections and arguing that post-divorce career advancement will be achieved through individual effort without marital support. Never accept settlements that create ongoing claims to future retirement growth beyond the current account division. By the time you're facing systematic 401k asset redistribution, you're not dealing with fair divorce proceedings or equitable distribution. Each trap represents a calculated legal strategy to transfer your retirement security into her financial portfolio. Your retirement security is worth more than avoiding conflict, and your financial future is too valuable to sacrifice for legal convenience. When someone's divorce strategy involves systematically targeting your retirement assets through legal manipulation, they've already shown you their true priorities. The question isn't which trap they'll use, it's whether you're ready to start protecting your financial future before it's too late. If these financial protection strategies were helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the latest tactics men need to know about protecting their assets. Hit that like button and share your experience in the comments. Have you already spotted any of these 401k traps being set up in your situation?